She lay there, barely moving, every breath shallow and deliberate as chaos swirled around her. The air was thick with tension, the scent of gunpowder and sweat mingling in a way that made it impossible to ignore the danger she had just faced. People rushed past, shouting orders and assessing wounds, but she remained silent, her face a mask of calm that seemed almost unnatural given the severity of her injuries. Her body bore the evidence of the struggle. Bruises mottled her skin, cuts streaked her arms, and a deep gash threatened to spill the life she fought so fiercely to protect. Yet, despite all this, her eyes were steady, scanning the room with a clarity that suggested she was already thinking several steps ahead, anticipating what might come next. There was a certain power in her silence. It was not the silence of defeat or exhaustion, but the silence of someone who had been trained to endure, to push through pain, and to maintain control no matter the circumstances. Each micro-movement she made, shifting her weight slightly, adjusting her breathing, flexing a finger, revealed a mind still fully engaged, still calculating, still alive to every threat. Those around her noticed the quiet determination, even if they couldn't fully understand it. Some instinctively gave her space, sensing that this was not a woman to be approached lightly. Others paused, unsure whether to offer help or step back and watch, as if her composure alone commanded respect. Her endurance was more than physical. It was mental, emotional, and almost spiritual. She had faced situations before that would have broken most people, moments that demanded every ounce of courage she could summon. Yet here she was, wounded and yet unbroken, embodying a kind of resilience that defied explanation. The pain in her body was real, but it did not define her. It did not dictate her actions. She had learned long ago that true strength was not about avoiding injury or discomfort, but about moving forward regardless, about keeping one's mind sharp and one's focus unshakable even when the world seemed determined to knock you down. It was this unseen resilience that would later leave everyone astonished. Observers would recount how she remained utterly composed while others panicked, how she assessed the situation calmly, even as adrenaline surged through her veins, and how her strategic awareness and ability to think under pressure hinted at training far beyond ordinary experience. At that moment, though, there was only the quiet presence of someone who refused to be defined by circumstance, who understood that endurance was not just about surviving, but about asserting control over oneself when everything around seemed to be unraveling. In her silence, she spoke louder than words ever could, a testament to the human capacity for courage, focus, and unwavering determination. Her true abilities remained hidden until the sharp eyes of the SEAL medic noticed the subtle clues that most would have missed. At first glance, she appeared like any other wounded individual, tense, guarded, and cautious. But the medic, trained to detect even the smallest hints of advanced training, observed her movements closely. The way she adjusted her posture, the controlled rhythm of her breathing, the precision with which she shifted her weight without revealing vulnerability, all of it spoke to someone who had undergone a level of training far beyond ordinary experience. It was the kind of instinctive efficiency that only comes from years of disciplined preparation, countless hours of mental conditioning, and a mastery of physical endurance under extreme circumstances. As he examined her, the medic's attention was drawn to small, almost imperceptible habits. Her eyes scanned the room in quick, precise arcs, noting exits, positions of potential threats, and the location of equipment with a speed that suggested tactical familiarity. Her hands, even when resting, were ready to react, fingers curled slightly as if anticipating movement or attack. When she shifted slightly to relieve pressure from a wound, it was done with surgical care, avoiding aggravating the injury while maintaining full awareness of her surroundings. These were not random motions. They were trained responses, instinctual behaviors developed in high-pressure environments where hesitation could mean disaster. It became increasingly clear to the medic that her composure under pain and chaos was not merely personality, it was the product of rigorous, elite training. This was someone who had been molded to perform under extreme stress, whose mind had been conditioned to filter panic and focus solely on the task at hand. Her movements suggested familiarity with combat scenarios, survival strategies, and rapid assessment of threats, all executed with an ease that could only come from repeated practice and a deep understanding of one's own capabilities. The wounds on her body, severe as they were, had not compromised her effectiveness. Rather, they highlighted the extraordinary level of control she maintained over both body and mind. The revelation struck the medic with quiet astonishment. He realized that she was not just enduring her injuries, she was leveraging her training in real time, demonstrating skill sets that would take others years, if not decades, to acquire. Every decision, every adjustment, every flicker of awareness was a testament to her preparation. It was as though her body had been hardwired to respond optimally to situations that would overwhelm most, and her mind had been tempered to make split-second decisions with calm precision. What stunned everyone around was that this advanced training had been invisible until that very moment. No one had expected such competence from someone who appeared vulnerable and wounded, yet the signs were unmistakable once recognized. The seamless blend of endurance, tactical awareness, and instinctive action revealed a person shaped by elite discipline. In that instant, the quiet, wounded figure transformed in the eyes of the room, not just someone surviving an ordeal, but a trained professional whose skills could shift the course of events in ways few could comprehend. The moment her training became apparent, the atmosphere in the room shifted completely. People who had assumed she was just another casualty of circumstance now found themselves staring in disbelief. What had once seemed like quiet vulnerability transformed into something entirely different: precision, control, and an almost uncanny awareness of the environment. Those around her, from seasoned personnel to onlookers, could not help but be impressed. Veterans and trained personnel who prided themselves on their experience found themselves reassessing their assumptions. They whispered to one another, astonished by the effortless way she handled the situation, noting details they had only learned to recognize after years of practice. Every gesture, every blink, every calculated pause communicated expertise. What had initially seemed like mere survival instincts were now revealed as the hallmarks of elite training, of someone conditioned to respond with precision and efficiency regardless of circumstances. Her silence added to the impact. She did not need to announce her capabilities with words or explanations. The evidence was in her actions. The room was filled with a mix of admiration, disbelief, and curiosity. People leaned in slightly, trying to understand what had just unfolded before them. Some questioned how someone could remain so composed after being wounded, while others marveled at the subtle techniques she used to maintain balance, protect herself, and observe everything happening in real time. In that moment, she became a living demonstration of the power of discipline, training, and mental fortitude. By the time the medic began interacting with her, the shock had settled into a mixture of respect and awe. Everyone realized that they had been witnessing something extraordinary, not just a woman enduring injury, but a person whose skills and mindset allowed her to navigate a dangerous situation with a level of mastery that few could imagine. The initial assumptions about her weakness or fragility were obliterated, replaced by a newfound understanding of her competence and strength. Her presence, previously underestimated, now commanded attention, illustrating in the most striking way that appearances can be deceiving and that true capability is revealed not by talk, but by action under. The SEAL medic's presence in the room was more than just routine. It was a quiet force of observation honed through years of rigorous training. His eyes were trained to notice the smallest deviations in behavior, the subtle cues that could indicate strength, weakness, or hidden talent. While others were focused solely on the immediate chaos, the blood, the injuries, the urgency of medical triage, he watched with a different perspective. Every twitch, every controlled motion, every subtle adjustment of posture was cataloged, analyzed, and interpreted. and it was in that scrutiny that he first began to recognize that she was not an ordinary casualty. At first, it was almost imperceptible. He noticed the way her breathing remained steady despite the pain, the way her eyes moved with purpose instead of fear, and the way her body instinctively shielded the most vulnerable areas without compromising her mobility. These were small details, the kind that would likely escape casual observation, but they told a story of discipline, training, and experience. The SEAL medic's training had taught him to read these signs quickly, to distinguish between panic and calculated response, and to act accordingly. And what he observed in her was the unmistakable signature of elite preparation, someone who had been conditioned to maintain control even when the odds were stacked against them. As he worked closer, applying careful attention to her wounds, he realized just how impressive her composure was. She did not flinch unnecessarily, she did not overreact, and she maintained situational awareness even while receiving treatment. It became clear that her survival instincts were not merely reactive, they were strategic. Every decision, no matter how small, had a purpose. She was scanning for threats while conserving energy, protecting herself while allowing the medic to do his job, and communicating through subtle gestures that conveyed understanding without words. The medic, who had encountered countless soldiers, operatives, and civilians under duress, felt a rare sense of awe at her proficiency. In that moment, the medic became the lens through which everyone else's perception shifted. His recognition of her skill validated what others had begun to sense but could not yet articulate. He knew that she possessed the kind of training and discipline that could turn the tide in a critical situation, and his quiet acknowledgement signaled to those around him that this was someone extraordinary. Even without overt displays of power, her presence was commanding, because the trained eye could see the depth of her preparation. By the time the medic finished his assessment, it was clear to all who had been watching. She was not merely surviving, she was demonstrating a mastery of herself and her environment that few could match. The SEAL medic's insight bridged the gap between perception and reality, revealing to everyone that her strength was not just physical, but mental, tactical, and instinctive. Through his observation, the story of her elite training became undeniable, a testament to the power of discipline, the sharpness of trained perception, and the extraordinary capabilities of those who have honed their skills to perfection. Beyond the immediate astonishment of those in the room, her story carried a message that resonated far beyond the walls where it had unfolded. It was a testament to the extraordinary potential that lies hidden within people, waiting for the right moment to emerge. Her courage, skill, and unwavering focus had not only saved her from immediate danger, but had also left everyone who witnessed it with a renewed sense of respect for the human capacity for resilience and mastery. This was not just a story about survival, it was a story about the heights of human capability, the kind of inspiration that lingers long after the moment has passed. People would talk about her long after the chaos had subsided. They spoke of her calm under pressure, her precise movements, and her silent strength in the face of adversity. They recalled the way the SEAL medic had noticed her hidden training and how that recognition had transformed their understanding of what they thought was possible. It became clear that her experience was more than a personal triumph. It was a lesson in preparation, discipline, and the quiet power of persistence. The invisible hours of training, the countless drills, and the mental conditioning she had endured all culminated in a performance that left no doubt. True capability reveals itself in the crucible of real-life pressure. Her story also carried an unspoken challenge to those who witnessed it, and later to anyone who heard of it, to never underestimate the strength of another, to recognize that appearances can be deceiving, and to understand that resilience is often cultivated long before it is required. It was a reminder that heroes are not always loud or ostentatious. Sometimes they are quiet, observant, enduring, and acting only when necessary, their skill and bravery manifesting at precisely the right moment. The impact of her actions was magnified because it had been unassuming, subtle, and disciplined, a stark contrast to the chaos around her. There was an undeniable inspiration in her example. She embodied the kind of determination and focus that transforms ordinary people into extraordinary individuals. Her story underscored the value of preparation, of enduring hardship, and of cultivating skills that may one day be needed in moments of crisis. It reminded those who watched and those who later learned of it that extraordinary competence often exists beneath the surface, invisible until it is revealed under the pressure of real circumstances. Her silent strength became a symbol of what can be achieved when discipline, courage, and skill converge, leaving a lasting impression on everyone fortunate enough to witness it. Ultimately, her experience was not just a tale of survival or skill, it was a beacon of inspiration, a demonstration of human potential, and a vivid reminder that true heroes are defined not by words but by action. Every detail, from the subtle indicators of her training to the astonishment of those around her, to the quiet validation by the SEAL medic, formed a narrative that transcended the immediate situation. It was a story that proved beyond question that preparation, resilience, and unwavering focus can reveal extraordinary capabilities in even the most unexpected moments, leaving a mark that inspires admiration, respect,